All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something really important. What's the secret sauce that separates a successful project from, well, a spectacular failure? Let's dive right into the blueprint for turning those great ideas into actual, real-world impact.
You've been there, right? I mean, we've all been there. You're on a project, the meetings just go on forever, the goals seem to change every week, and you get that sinking feeling that nobody really knows what's going on. It's like you're adrift in a sea of chaos and you're just stuck on this bumpy ride. It's a feeling we all know, but here's the thing, it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, so let's get on the same page here. What even is a project? Because it's not just a random pile of work. A project is a sequence of tasks that are all connected. They have to be completed to get to a specific, predetermined goal. And, this is the key part, it's almost always a juggling act. You've got constraints, right? Like a tight budget or a deadline that absolutely cannot move. And this is where we see the big shift, from total chaos to actually having some control. The secret isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. And that means you have to pause before you even start and ask some really fundamental questions. Simple stuff, really. Why are we even doing this? What are we actually trying to build? And maybe most importantly, who is responsible for what?
So that leads us to the very first and maybe the most critical step, the go/no-go decision. Yeah, before anyone writes a single line of code, before a single brick is laid, you have to decide if this thing should even exist. And that decision, it's all driven by something called the business case. Now, don't let the name fool you. This is not just some boring paperwork. It's the core argument, the proof that this project is actually worth doing. It's the why.
And a really strong business case, a strong why, is built on 6 key pillars. You got to answer these 6 questions, really. First, what's the actual problem we're trying to solve? Second, why is this solution the best one out of all the options? Third, can we actually do this? Is it feasible? Fourth, is it worth it? Does it make financial sense? Then, what are our limits, our constraints? And finally, what could go terribly wrong? You know, the risk assessment. If you can answer these 6 things clearly, your project has a rock-solid foundation.
Speaking of constraints, at the absolute heart of every single project, there's this classic puzzle. We call it the triple constraint. It's this constant, delicate balancing act between 3 things: time, cost, and scope, which also includes quality. And here's the rule. You just can't touch one of them without messing with the other 2. It's impossible.
So every single project is a series of trade-offs. It's like that old saying, fast, cheap, or good. Pick 2. Think about it. If time is your #1 priority, say you're building a stadium for the Olympics and that date is not moving, then you're probably going to have to spend more money or do less stuff to hit that deadline. Or if your budget is completely fixed, you can't spend a penny more, well, you might have to accept that it'll take longer. And if what you're making has to be absolutely perfect, like a high-tech medical device, you can bet it's going to take more time and cost a lot more. The project manager's entire job, really, is navigating these trade-offs every single day.
All right, so the business case gives us our why. We're all agreed on why we're doing this, but that's not enough to actually start working, is it? We need a plan, an official battle plan. We need to know the what and the how. And that, my friends, is the project initiation document, the PID.
So here's how you tell them apart. It's super simple. The business case is what gets the project the green light. It gets it approved. The PID is what comes next. It's the contract, the playbook for how you're actually going to do the thing. It takes that big, high-level why and breaks it down into a detailed, actionable plan that everyone can follow.
And a huge part of that PID is defining the project deliverables. These are the actual tangible things you're going to produce. This is where you have to get really specific. We're not just building a new factory. No, we're building the factory extension, installing this specific equipment, rolling out these training programs for staff, and so on. Getting this granular is so critical. It makes your goals totally concrete and measurable. Plus, it's your best defense against that dreaded scope creep. You know, when people keep adding little things to the project until it's a completely different monster.
Okay, so you've got this great plan. How do you make sure a big, complicated project actually stays on track? The answer is gateways. Just think of them as mandatory checkpoints, like a toll booth on a highway. You literally cannot proceed to the next phase, say, from the design phase to the building phase, until the project board reviews everything and gives a formal sign-off. It's a super powerful way to stop the project from drifting away from its original goals.
So let's recap. We've got our why from the business case, we've got our what and how from the PID. There's just one piece of the puzzle left, and it's a big one. It's the who. Because let's be honest, you can have the most brilliant plan in the world, but if nobody knows who's supposed to do what, it's completely worthless.
This whole structure usually breaks down into 4 key layers. Way up at the top, you have the project board. They're the ones who give the final yes or no and make sure it all aligns with the bigger company goals. Then you've got the project sponsor. This is your champion, the person who's fighting for the project, securing the funding, and keeping an eye on it from a high level. Then you get down into the trenches. That's where the project manager lives, managing the day-to-day chaos, the plan, the resources, the team. And finally, you have the project team itself, the experts who are actually doing the work and bringing this whole thing to life. When everyone knows their lane like this, accountability becomes crystal clear.
So what's the big takeaway here? I know what you might be thinking. All these documents, these roles, these gateways, it sounds like a lot of bureaucracy, right? A lot of red tape designed to slow things down. But that's not what it's about. It's about one thing: clarity. This whole structure, it is the blueprint. It's what stops the chaos before it starts and gives you a real shot at success.
You know, it really all boils down to this one core idea, which comes straight from our source material. It says that a project's success really just depends on how well it's justified and how well it's supported. And that's it. The justification, that's your business case. The support, that's your PID. If you nail those 2 things, you've built yourself a foundation that's actually going to hold up.
And that leaves us with one last question for you. The next time you're about to start something new, I don't care if it's a huge project at work or just a personal goal you've set for yourself, are you going to have the discipline to just pause, take a breath, and ask that all-important first question? Wait, what's the business case for this? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.